Letting go doesn't mean that you don't care about someone anymore. It's just realizing that the only person you really have control over is yourself. Deborah Reber. Bending, not breaking. The Dragon Pod. Reflections. Welcome back to another episode of the Dragon Pod. This is Ben Pruitt, your host, and I am excited to talk about this, Reflections. Today we are talking, I'm referring to the individual one as with an S, the individual as the plural, but it's just one reflection we're talking about. Anyway, I digress. We're talking about this moment with Soren in Strangers that everyone has been like frothing at the bit to get at. And I'm excited because we have a really, really fun guest to talk about this reflection with. But before we introduce our guest, I want to make sure to honor the author who wrote today's reflection. And without further ado, Joe Corcoran is the author of our reflection today, the author of Strangers. And I am just thrilled that we had an opportunity to read this work. Thank you, Joe. I also want to take some time to introduce the authors that I failed to read out and make sure you all were aware of for the past 3 episodes. So, without further ado, let me introduce you to them as well. First and foremost, we talked about After Darkness, and After Darkness was written by Eugene Ramos. Thank you, Eugene, for writing that. Next, we had Deep Below, written by Paige Van Tassel. Thank you, Paige. And then finally, a prior guest on the podcast, and one of the people I've enjoyed speaking to about the Dragon Prince, generally speaking, has been Michal Schick. And so, Michal, you wrote Lost Child, and thank you for writing that. Thank you for the gift that is all of the angst that is in that story. Oh, my goodness. But again, I want to just thank you all who are writing these and know that we as fans are really appreciative of all of the work that you do. And now, without further ado, I'd like to welcome our guest today. Avery is here and uses they, them pronouns and is a devout fan of the Dragon Prince. They're constantly thinking about cosplay and have cosplayed Rayla and is very excited to take on various other outfits from Rayla, and we're excited to see them. They also create content on YouTube related to the Dragon Prince. Check that out. We'll share that at the end. Avery, welcome to the podcast. How are you today?
I'm doing good. Greetings, fellow humans, human fellas.
Hello. I am so excited to talk about this with you. There is so much going on here, and man, it's going to be action-packed. But before we get to the content, I would love to know just a little bit more about you. So we kind of know that you are a massive Dragon Prince fan based off of your short bio, but tell us a little bit more about you. What makes you you? What makes you human?
Hi. So I am a fashion design student currently outside of what I do for work, which is I work in childcare. But I started going to school for fashion and costume design because I fell in love with it through cosplay. And hilariously enough, one of the biggest reasons I got into cosplay was because I wanted to cosplay Rayla. So you can slightly blame TDP for my future career paths. But outside of content creation and school and all that, I love to read. I love to just sink into the world of fantasy, and I just love getting to find worlds to be a part of. And I also am a music writer, or at least I try to be.
That's amazing. So I also love fantasy. So tell me some of your favorite worlds to jump into aside from the Dragon Prince.
Some of my favorite other fantasy worlds. Ruby is definitely a big one. That's how I got most of my YouTube following there, from reacting to Ruby. I love all of Studio Ghibli, just all of their movies. I could turn on a Studio Ghibli movie and just zone out for 2 hours. I love Fire Emblem. That's a really good series. I love RPGs. I'm currently playing through Final Fantasy X and I'm loving it.
Ooh, have you played it before?
No, this is
Oh
my
my
first time playing 10.
gosh.
I've only played 7 before.
I love 10. It makes me laugh. It made me cry. I loved it.
Shameless plug. I'm posting that on my YouTube.
Yeah. Oh, that's incredible. No, oh my God, I play it. I replay it.
I'm loving it so far, but I'm wondering how they breathe for so long underwater.
Oh, you just have to get over that one. Yeah.
I legit, while watching season 5, I was just like, are we gonna have like Final Fantasy X moment where I'm just like, how are they breathing?
Yep. Some things we never learn. Amazing.
I don't know. I went into that game pretty much completely blind. People were just like, you don't know the ending of Final Fantasy X? And I was just like, no, I've apparently been under a rock.
Yeah. Oh man, I remember the first time I did that. I used to play these games, these role-playing games, like these are single player games. I used to play them with my friends and we'd all like take turns playing this game and watching each other play the game.
That
And I
was me and my
remember,
brother playing Paper Mario.
yeah, I remember the first time I beat 10. I was with my 3 buddies and we all just were crying watching the ending of this game.
Oh no. I guess I gotta be prepared.
Yeah, I mean, I had also spent hundreds of hours playing this game ahead of that, so I had a lot of emotional investment. Oh man. Well, this is a Dragon Prince podcast, and so I'm really
we gotta leave the other water people alone.
Yeah. Oh man. Okay, well, we've gotten a little bit to know you. You've kind of given us a little bit about your relationship with the Dragon Prince. And tell me, when did you find the Dragon Prince? Were you an early adopter? What was your deal? How did you find it? When did you find it?
I was a pre-season 1 fan, actually. I saw the trailer uploaded on YouTube and I clicked on it and I watched it and I was just like, this looks good. I'll watch it when it comes out. And then I watched it when it came out and I was just like, well, I've found my personality for the rest of my life.
I've found my personality. Oh
I
man.
haven't been very talkative in the fandom until season 4 because I best way to put it, I've been scared of talking to people about my nerdiness because high school was not a fun time for me.
Totally
But when season 4 got all of its announcement stuff starting to come out in 2022, I was just like, you know what? I'll start being more active. So I started posting more online and I ended up finding some amazing friends through this server. And I've managed to talk to some of the cast and crew now, which is really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Amazing. Yeah, the first time I had like responses from cast and crew for the podcast, I was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And now it feels like some of them are just my friends at this point. Like
I
fairly often now.
I once had a 20-minute conversation with Jason about VeggieTales.
Yeah, Jason's awesome. Like he makes everyone feel like they're the center of the universe while he's talking to them.
He's like a giant teddy bear, physically and mentally.
Yeah, he's amazing.
Because I brought up at one point, I was just like, I feel like the theme song of the Mage Fam in season 5 is the pirates who don't do anything from VeggieTales. And he was just like, you've watched VeggieTales? And I was just like, heck yeah, I've watched VeggieTales. So we had a 20-minute conversation about VeggieTales.
Amazing. Yeah. So if y'all haven't heard any of the conversations with Jason on the podcast, I highly, highly recommend going to check those out. Not because I was cool, but because Jason did all of the heavy lifting and made those episodes.
He's a professional.
Yeah, he's a wonderful human being.
First time I ever spoke to him, he joined in a Discord call, and I was reading. I do a Rayla impression. I was reading Dear Callum in my Rayla impression.
Oh my god!
And at the end of it, I heard him say, "That was really good." And then you just heard me scream, "Oh
Oh wow, man!
And Ben was there too.
Oh cool, yeah. Oh gosh,
Ben's also a sweetie.
Yes, Absolutely.
Ben joins in Discord calls all the time and we don't realize he's there.
Just to listen.
Yeah, we'll just be like, wait, hi Ben, and he'll just be like, hey.
Man, it's like I'm trying to think of a punny way to get us into this lens that you've chosen for us. And I guess I'll just have to accept that I can't. But
the only joke I have is a bad Callum joke.
I mean, all the bad jokes are welcome.
Yeah. We gotta learn acceptance like Callum accepted his girlfriend left him.
Oh, we're getting dark up in here. Oh my goodness.
All of my jokes are bad Rayla leaving jokes.
Well, that's where the dark humor is, y'all. You heard it here, folks. You heard it here. So you've named it. We are talking about acceptance today as we talk about this reflection called Strangers, written by our friend Joe. But tell me, why and how did this lens come up for you as we were discussing various lenses? Why this one?
Well, for starters, my original lens was longing, but that was hilariously enough taken by Claudia's short story.
Can't help it, you know.
So the siblings are just going through it together. So I didn't want us to have to go through the same lens twice. So I read through the story a few more times, and I kind of realized that not only in this short story, but throughout seasons 4 and 5, and even in the first 3 seasons a little bit, but more so in the Mystery of Erebos arc, acceptance has really been a major theme throughout these 2 seasons. And we've also seen them in the short stories. And we see it a lot, mainly with Soren, because we see Viren a bit in the short story, but it's mainly Soren accepting that things really just can't go back to the way things were when he was a child.
Yeah. I mean, that was, you could easily just verbatim swap Soren and Claudia too, because that's all of what Claudia's short story was about, was this thinking about what used to be. And like, it was thinking about mom, thinking about, really her relationship with Viren and wanting it to go back to the way it was and trying to get him to use dark magic. And that's in this story, right? It's this idea of wanting people to be who they used to be to us, and realizing that people change, but not willing to accept that change.
Soren wants the Viren from 10 years ago. Claudia wants the Viren from 2 years ago.
Yeah. Ooh, it's fascinating to think about. I mean, honestly, in this one, it feels like Soren doesn't want Viren at all. But
at this point, he's just like, go away, old man.
Yeah. So let's contextualize this just a little bit for us. What does acceptance mean for you? What is acceptance?
So for me, acceptance, it's not just blindly saying this is the way things are. I feel like that is a type of acceptance, but that's not really the acceptance that I believe is true acceptance. Acceptance is acknowledgement of the way things are, but you don't have to like it. I can just blindly going with it isn't really acceptance. Just saying, I don't like that this is the way things are, but like that is the way things are. Because Soren definitely doesn't like that he doesn't have a relationship with his father anymore, but he's just like, that's sadly the way things have to be now.
Yeah. I think one of the things where I get tripped up sometimes is acceptance being conflated with forgiveness.
Exactly.
And those two things are very different, right? It's to accept something is true does not mean that you also forgive them for that truth, right? And I think we see that with Soren, right? We see that he has a certain image of Viren, that he has kind of accepted who Viren has become, even if his understanding of Viren is a little misconstrued at this point. But that acceptance of that fact does not mean that he also is like, and now you're forgiven for that because I've accepted it.
Yeah. Oh
And that's
gosh, there are I've had, I mean, I mentioned before high school was not a good time for me. I've
yeah,
had a lot of people do a lot of really bad things to me in high school, and I've accepted that it's a part of my high school experience. I've accepted that one of those things is going to follow me for probably the rest of my life, sadly, because it's on the internet. But I I've accepted that that's a part of my life, but I have not forgiven most of them
yeah,
because they've it caused a lot of real pain.
yeah. There's also when I think about acceptance, and I think I've talked about this before on the podcast, I think about the Riddle homophobia scale. Are you familiar with that?
Yes, I am.
And the reason I lift it up is because the Riddle scale places acceptance on the homophobic side of the scale. So it's a scale from 1 to 8. 1 through 4 are certain levels of attitude, beginning with repulsion, pity, tolerance, and acceptance. And those are on the spectrum of homophobic, whereas positive levels of attitude are support, admiration, appreciation, and then nurturance being the height of the scale. And I find it really compelling for me because I think about like the phrase "I accept you." It implies that there is something that needs accepting in the first place. Um, but at the same time, there's something that's really healing about acceptance and being accepted, even with the fault. And it's one of those things where there are certain things that where acceptance doesn't feel adequate or enough, and then there are certain times where acceptance feels like that's the end, right? This is the furthest I'm willing to go. And it's really interesting to think about because acceptance is hard. It's not easy.
Mm-hmm. I live in a very conservative area, so a lot of times acceptance is the farthest what people are willing to go
Yeah.
when it comes to queer people. And sadly, that is something I've had to accept, and uh that's why I'm more quiet. But
Mhm.
uh there's there's a lot of people that do support and admire and appreciate and
Absolutely.
nurture, just sadly because because of the amount of people that will only say I accept you. People think that that's the farthest they need to go because they're just like, oh well, they're saying that they accept you, they're not trying to burn us all.
Yeah. Well, it's so hard because the way you phrase that, I like is kind of interesting, right? You said I have had to accept that the furthest they're willing to go is acceptance, right? And it's there's this two-way acceptance that is necessary, right? And it's really interesting to think about what that means and what that implies, right? Acceptance is not just something we do for ourselves. When that acceptance is made external, what that does is it puts it on someone else to have to deal with the consequence. And for you, that led to like, okay, I have to accept this. I'm not going to nurture this. I'm not going to support the fact that they accept me for, or, my friends or whomever, my community, but I am going to accept it because that sucks, but it's the best I'm going to get. And it's this weird thing of acceptance implies like this is not the best it could be, but it's the best I think I can get,
Yeah.
is I think what acceptance often comes down to, right? Does that
It's
resonate for you?
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. I mean, it's a sad thing that life will sometimes suck, and accepting that life sometimes sucks is a really hard thing to do. And again, you don't have to like it, because acceptance, you don't have to like that you accept something, but ac- accepting it is a part of life.
Yeah.
Because there's accepting things just being like, oh, la di da, this is part of life. That's not really accepting it. That's ignoring the problem.
Yeah, which is also bad.
Yeah. So
um
like don't ignore that there is that negativity, but don't ignore the negativity, but you have to accept that the negativity is there.
Yeah. And then what I find, like, and this is probably a good segue to go into the content of the reflection, because this begs the question then, when is acceptance problematic? When is acceptance become a, you should not have accepted that. You should have striven for more. You should have worked harder. You should have fought harder. You should have done X, Y, or Z to do better, to make sure that the world would be better, right? There's a lot of argument for saying, like, no, how dare you accept that? That acceptance is not okay here. And what we see is that Soren, right at the beginning, like, his wrists are rubbed raw. He's gnashing and gnawing at this gag that is in his mouth and is not moving. And there's an element of, buddy, if you just accept that, you won't hurt yourself further, right? And then there's the element of, no, I have to keep fighting because this is unacceptable, right? And whoa, I'm getting chills. There's so much going on here. What are your thoughts on this moment?
So I really don't, I agree with you there that acceptance can be very problematic. And with this case, I do feel like Soren shouldn't really accept the fact that he is currently tied up, because I mean, I've always been, I'm bringing this to elementary school. I've always learned that, like, as a kid, if you get kidnapped, fight. If you get tied up, fight them. But the thing with Soren is, I feel like this is a bit less of a, oh my gosh, I've been like tied up and stuff. It's just like, holy crap, Claudia's here. She's tied me up. What is she doing? I need to stop her. I feel like it's a bit more of a mental block than him wanting to get out physically. He's just like wanting to get out so he can try to stop Claudia from whatever she's doing.
No, I think I think that plays a huge role. And it's hard, because I could also hear the argument of, no, he should stop trying to get away because he's hurting himself and he's only making it worse. Right. And there is like almost an ethical, moral argument here around what one should do around accepting one's current state, or the state of the world in this case. It's a really interesting, tenuous argument that I'm really struggling with. So it's really just fascinating about.
We absolutely see like where acceptance can be bad with the state of the world right now. Like, I'm not going to say anything specifically because I'm not going to get political here. No worries. But like a lot of stuff going on in the world right now, I'm sitting here just like, I cannot accept that this is happening to people right now, because this is so screwed up.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it's, yeah.
I mean, sorry.
I do think that part of what that does, and what is being stated in that and implied in that, is the idea of things like protests, things like voting, things like calling your senator about all of the various bills and laws that are trying to be passed into law that one could use their voice against, instead of just accepting, well, this is the way of the world. No, you have a voice.
Sadly, I feel like some of those senators and some of those people have accepted that this is the way the world is, and it sucks, because if the people in power believe that, then we really are stuck. I said I wasn't going to get political. Whoops.
I mean, we can't not. I think that this is a political conversation. I don't think we need to be explicitly like this bill, but I do think that like this is a political conversation, and fiction is political, right?
Oh gosh, the Dragon Prince is very political.
Let's talk about how the Dragon Prince is political.
Yeah. Oh my God. Who do you think they're voting for? I'm kidding.
Right. But I wish some of them were in the United States.
Oh gosh, can we make Ezra our president?
Yeah, that'd be great. I'm here for it.
Let the 12-year-old be our president. Please.
I would accept.
I would accept too. No, Opelli needs to be our president.
Oh man.
Opelli would get stuff done.
Yeah, while I agree, I think that'd cause more friction than Ezra.
Well, that's the thing though. Opelli would actually get stuff done.
Yeah.
Ezra would just be like, can't we be friends?
Yeah, literally, I think most of the people on that show would be better than our current options. But
Yeah,
I
no,
digress.
either side. I'm just sitting here, just like, can we just not?
Yeah,
Can
yeah,
we get someone below the age of 50?
ideally. Um, so what's a moment of acceptance that you want to turn towards in this reflection?
Well, we were talking about how I'm sticking with the beginning actually, when you discussed how accepting things may not always be the best idea. Soren also brings up that uh I'm quoting the story here, someone out there were his friends, his duty, his king. Soren's not accepting that he's been captured because he's just like, where are my friends?
Yeah.
They could be hurt. There's dragons around here. There's the Drake Riders around here. Because I mean, in episode 6, Soren was captured by the Drake Riders,
Yes. Yes.
and or no, not episode 6. No, it was episode 6.
I think it was 6.
It
Yeah.
was 6. Yeah, episode 7 was where he came out on the dragon, was just like, "Hey guys, I found a dragon.
Everything's fine.
Everything's fine. I just casually tamed a dragon."
In my PJs.
Yeah, in my pajam jams, my pink pajam jams. But he hadn't seen them in at least a day at that point.
Yeah.
Because he had been captured, then he tamed the dragon, and he was wandering around for the day looking for them, and he was just like, "Hey, where are you guys? I found
Yeah.
this dragon. I adopted this dragon."
Well, and I think what that speaks to is something really interesting, right? So Soren has been put in a position where he has been captured before, and he has resisted. He has not accepted that, in other words.
He never really has. I think the only time that I saw him accept being captured was season 3 with the bread sandwich.
Yeah.
But
Well,
that
it's
was because he felt he deserved to be captured. He
and
didn't
I
feel
think
he
that
deserved to
plays
be
a role.
captured here.
Yeah, well, and I think this element of Soren has a history to fall back on of every time I've been captured, I've been able to escape. Or I didn't because I didn't feel like I deserved it. Right.
Yeah.
In this
Well, he
case,
managed to escape that time, but it was because Viren.
but even so, right, he's been able to get out consistently. And so this moment is what we're seeing is him not accepting it, right? We see a couple paragraphs in, he tries again to get out of the gag, right? He fails again, and he has to accept things more than once. Like he stops trying to get out for a second, and then he tries again. And there's this really interesting when I think about studies, there's we're going to get a little sad for a second. We're going to talk about dogs. There was a study that was performed on dogs, and what the scientists did was they electrocuted them, essentially.
No.
There was a shock where their cage, and the first time it happened, the dogs vehemently tried to escape.
And eventually they accepted. I've read that study before.
And eventually, long term, the door was just wide open, and they just kept on taking the shock because they had, quote, learned helplessness. And we see the opposite in Soren, right? Where he has learned to not accept things because he has learned that he has the capacity and agency to make a difference. Whereas for a lot of people, the opposite is true. And it's not just dogs, right?
It's with people. I mean, just with how I'm going to just bring a bullying culture. So many people are just like, "Oh, well, if you ignore them, they'll stop." No, they don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you don't give them a reaction, they'll stop. No, they won't.
Yeah.
Not giving them a reaction just makes them think, "Oh, they've accepted that I can torment them now." And that's not a good type of acceptance. That's just laying down and taking it. That's not accepting. That's just letting people hurt you, walk over you.
The difference, though, is I feel like culturally what happens is people will assign moral value to just taking it, so to speak. Like you're the
Yeah,
better.
they're just like, oh, you're so strong for
You're
letting yourself get
yeah,
hurt. You're so
exactly.
brave. And in reality, you're just like, cool, I'm brave, but also my brain hurts, my
But
mental health.
also what we're doing when we do that is we're conditioning people to sit and take it. We're
Exactly.
conditioning people to, it's in another word, it's a type of grooming, right?
Mhm.
For the socio-capitalist society that we live in which,
Everybody run. The
right?
right people are coming.
But if
We
we
said grooming.
can But if we can condition the entire culture to sit and take it, they're not going to call their senator when a law comes up that is really tough that they don't like, that doesn't hurt them, but it hurts their friend. Like, why would I
It's
call? This is a learned helplessness deal, right?
it's sadly the world we live in. Just people
Yeah.
have been so conditioned to just be like, well, it's not affecting me specifically,
Yeah.
but then it does in the end affect them specifically. That's something that I've seen a lot with the trans bills that have been getting passed. A lot of LGBT plus people without the T. I'm not saying that that is a good thing at all. Um, they're just like, well, it doesn't affect me. And now there have been a lot more anti-LGBTQ plus as a whole bills coming out, and we're
Yep.
just like, we told you this would affect you in the end.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. It starts off with one thing and then it leads on and on and on. And if you just lay down and say, oh, I accept this happening, it's gonna keep getting worse. I mean,
Yeah.
super dark example, that is how the Holocaust happened.
I mean, listen, if you look at the stages of genocide, we're
We're
pretty
at
far
stage
along in
8.
the United States.
We're
So
at stage 8 of 10.
yeah, and I don't say that lightly. I think that's something that we should actively resist. And
Yeah.
what can we learn? Let's go back into this reflection for a second and see what are the moments that we can learn around resistance, and see if there's anything that we can do in terms of grappling with what is being accepted or not in this. And one of the things that I find really interesting and as a moment is with Viren. So Soren, Viren comes over to help. He comes
Mm-hmm.
over and he helps Soren breathe, and Soren tells him to go. And Viren's like, what else would you have me do? And he just tells him to go. And he says, if that is your wish. And there's an element of acceptance here that I think parents often grapple with their children, is when children have the autonomy and the agency to make their own decisions. And it's like, I'm here helping you and I want to do what's best for you. But if you don't want me here, then I need to accept that you're the one in charge of your body and you're in charge of yourself. And I'm no longer that person. But it's really hard. And that's a complex moment too. So I'm curious, what are your thoughts on this moment?
I mean, this is like the moment with Soren fully accepting that one, Viren is back, and two, Soren is just fully accepted that he, no matter what, he just doesn't want a relationship with Viren anymore. There's been Viren has hurt him too much for Soren to want that relationship anymore. Because I mean, we saw in seasons 1 through 3 how Viren treated Soren, and I'm I'm not gonna say that he was knowingly abusive, because there are some times where people have just been taught for so long that something is normal and they don't realize that it's abusive. So I'm not gonna say like, oh, Viren knew that he was abusing Soren. He could have known. I'm not gonna give him the full benefit of the doubt, but like Viren was emotionally abusive to Soren. That's the long and
Especially
short of it.
in seasons 1 through 3, right?
Yeah,
Um,
in season 4, I mean, we saw in season 4 they don't talk, and neither do they in season 5. But we see in the season 5 flashback with Baby Soren that
mm,
that wasn't always the way things were.
yeah, yeah,
And I feel like one of the main reasons for that change in how Soren was treated was because Viren couldn't accept that Soren was a sickly kid. We don't, because I mean, like,
Yeah, I don't
Soren, I
know.
mean, we got the Avengers Infinity War moment in the episode, but Mr. Viren, I don't feel so good. But
Spoiler alert.
baby Soren dies. But Viren never really accepted that Soren was sick, and he resorted to dark magic.
Yeah, I don't know. So I think I have a different thought on that, and feel free to push back or tell me to shove it. But it feels like it's not a lack of acceptance for Soren's sickliness. It feels like it's more a, I guess it is like he is not accepting that it's. I
He's not
think
accepting that he could lose him.
I think that's what it is.
That's what I was mainly referring to, because we see that
Yeah,
he uses so much dark magic that he goes, I'm quoting the child on this one, he goes zombie mode.
yeah, yeah.
And
Well,
Soren, that was what caused their relationship to fracture in the first place. Soren was so afraid of dark magic Viren
yeah.
that he wouldn't be around him, and that's what fractured their relationship in the first place.
Yeah, and it's really hard because like that was Viren's expression of doing everything he knew possible to do to actively resist Soren dying.
He,
uh,
I mean, Viren said it so many times in season 5. I will do anything for my family, however dangerous, however vile. The thing is, and we see this with him and we see this with him in seasons 1 through 3 mainly, and with Claudia now, they don't accept things.
they do
That
not.
is that is the biggest thing with the two of them. They don't accept the
Yeah,
way the world is. They're just like, if I keep trying, I
yeah.
can make this happen through pure, I'm
And
not going to say delusion, but they're just like through pure just doing everything I can.
it's
Soren realizes that in seasons 2 and 3. I think he first starts really realizing it with Pyrrha, the dragon,
yeah.
because he's just like, oh, I can't just brute force my way to killing this dragon, because when I tried to do that, I got paralyzed.
Yeah. And is this the dark side of acceptance, right? Or rather, the dark side of resisting acceptance,
Yeah.
right? On one hand, we've talked about how acceptance is unacceptable when it comes to certain things, but also we're seeing the opposite of that when acceptance and resisting it is taken to extreme with Viren and Claudia, right? And I think what happens is, for me, the difference there is Viren and Claudia, when they are resisting acceptance, they are putting their version of the world onto everyone else. And it is a ideology that has been applied and presumed to be universal. And that is what Claudia and Viren were doing. It's what Viren did all through seasons 1 through 3. It's what Claudia has been doing since then. And the difference, though, is when we resist acceptance in the perhaps more positive way, what we're doing is we're resisting other people putting their ideology into a universal format. When someone presumes that their way is the only way and the best way for everyone, we should resist this. But when it is you trying to turn everyone into your version, it feels like that should be resisted, right? Like, isn't that,
Yeah.
is that tracking? That's
No, it is.
a little convoluted.
I mean, there's another huge example of learning the good ways of acceptance that I see in the show itself, and that's with Rayla. Because
Mm,
Rayla at the beginning of the show, she is just like, this is the way the world is. We have to like, they killed the king, right? They killed the dragon king. We have to go and kill their king. She learns through mainly Callum and Ezra, and that that's just continuing the cycle of violence.
Yep.
And she begins to accept that this way that I've been taught isn't healthy.
Yeah.
And she ends up falling back into accepting that old way in Through the Moon when she leaves. And seasons 4 and 5, she's really trying to accept that the way she's been taught as a kid isn't the best way.
Yeah.
And we really see that in season 5, where she's just like, listen, here are my parents. They are not what's important right now. The world is ending.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think that's what's so really, I mean,
we see that with a lot of characters, because Ezran's also had to accept, like, oh, I can't just make the world peaceful. Some people don't want the world to be peaceful. They like the way they've accepted the way the world is now, and they don't want to see that change.
Yeah. I mean, and we see him learning that, right? And it's just really neat. I guess that still brings me back to this moment with Viren, right? Like with Soren, like if that is your wish. And Viren, it seems like, got to the height of I'm exacting my will on the world and is now coming off of that, whereas Claudia has taken where Viren was and says, we're going to double down and go harder.
Yeah, Viren dug a hole and he's trying to climb out of it, and Claudia jumped in and is just like, I got a bulldozer. Let's keep digging.
Yeah. And I think what we see here is that this Viren
don't dig.
Well, yeah, but Viren say, like, listening to Soren and walking away is an act of kindness, and it is not enough, right, to be forgiven, right? But I think what viewers and especially Viren stans are doing is really seeing this and his continued trajectory as a hard redemption arc, right, where they're trying to use his acceptance of the world now as a means of redeeming his prior atrocities.
There's something I always say when it comes to villains that people believe are going to get a redemption arc. There's a difference between being redeemed and being forgiven.
Yes.
At the end of season 3, Soren was redeemed and forgiven. And at the end of season 5, I'd say that Viren was redeemed, but he's not forgiven.
No, I mean,
he is nowhere near forgiven. He killed so many people. He hurt so many people. There is no, I mean, if I were in that situation, I feel like the only one who has even a slightest chance of forgiving him is Ezran, because he's Ezran.
Because it's
Because it's Ezran. Ezran would, as somebody could slap Ezran in the face and he'd just be like, I forgive you, because he's a sweet, sweet boy. But that's the thing. Soren was redeemed and Viren were both redeemed. The difference between the two of them is Soren was forgiven by people. They accepted that he has made those mistakes.
Yeah.
With Viren, you can't just accept those mistakes that he's made.
Yeah.
He's gone
we love
so
you.
far. Yeah, you can't just, Viren can't just go back and it's just like, hey, I tried committing mass genocide. Can I join your group?
I mean,
it's kind of like Zuko in Avatar. He was redeemed and forgiven, but if Fire Lord Ozai was just like, hey,
yeah,
I'm a good guy now, people would just be like, cool, go away.
Yeah,
get away from us.
You are still not welcome.
You committed genocide.
Yeah, I mean, and it's hard too, because, like, you know, people keep on asking for an Iroh redemption arc, just to linger on that for a minute. And it's the same thing where, like, we've forgiven Iroh because we haven't seen his war crimes, right?
He has committed war crimes. That's confirmed.
Yeah. So thinking about, like, I am I don't want to, it's too much. There's too much to dive into around.
We're going into Avatar now.
Well, speaking about forgiveness, generally speaking, forgiveness is such a big word that
It
like
really
has
is.
so much context. And anyway, I digress. We're not talking about that. We're talking about acceptance. So
acceptance and forgiveness, I feel, when it comes to people, at least, you can accept what people have done but not forgive them.
yeah,
That's what I mean with the you can be redeemed but not forgiven. If you are redeemed, people have accepted that you have done bad things, and they have accepted that you have changed, but that doesn't mean that they have to forgive you.
yeah.
I feel like they've done that with Soren, but I mean, they don't know that Viren has gone against Erebos in order to save their child.
Yeah.
I
So
love Sparklepuff. He's
I'm
great.
gonna toss it to you if there's any other moments in this reflection that we want to make sure we touch on before we transition.
Well, something that I honestly want to bring up is Soren's panic attack.
Yeah, we haven't talked about that. We should talk
We have
about
not
that.
talked about Soren's panic attack. For starters, I think it's written very well as a person who suffers from major panic attacks. I think it's written very well. Both just how Soren is feeling in that moment, and also connecting it to when he was a child and he wasn't able to breathe as well because of his illness.
Yeah.
I think it's written very well. But I feel like that Viren helping him, the way that Viren helped him was done very well too. They write panic attacks very well in the show. That's animated shows need to stop writing panic attacks so well, or else I'm gonna keep relating to them. I'm specifically looking at the Dragon Prince and Ruby.
Yeah, I'm thinking about, there it is not explicitly named as a panic attack,
It's
and
very much treated like one.
it is yeah, absolutely. And I'm thinking about how it was portrayed in season 4 with Viren, and I'm seeing it now with Soren, and I am really impressed. This is meta, but really impressed with the way the writers and with the team, generally speaking, has treated this.
I mean, Jason, he voiced Viren so well, and Ben did
It
so
was
great
so
with
good.
Terry helping him in it.
Yeah, I remember watching that, and I rewound, and I want to watch that again. Like just that scene, just because it was done
Yeah.
so well. Yeah.
I mean, I personally, I don't pass out during my panic attacks. I more so just I don't physically pass out. Mentally, I'm just like gone.
Yeah.
But you see that side more with Soren, because he flashes back to when he was a child in that moment.
Yeah.
And Viren comes and helps him. I feel like I'm trying to word this in a good way. Words, English, love it.
Well, one of the things that comes up for me about this is it is more difficult to experience bodily calm and acceptance when there is a mental or emotional trigger.
Yeah.
And what we see is that Soren is experiencing not just a shock of seeing his father alive when he thought him dead, right? That alone is enough to cause most people.
Most people would just be
right?
like, even if they loved their parent, they would just, well, not love. Soren still loves Viren, but even if they had a good relationship with their parent, they would just be like, what the?
But one of the things that comes up for me also is my work and my school for the past 3 years has been focused on trauma and
psychology.
Yeah. And I'm thinking about what Soren is experiencing.
Sora.
Yeah, sorry. Experiencing this.
Hearts.
I loved it. It was so good. This panic attack, I think, is partly a reflection of the trauma that he has experienced here.
Absolutely. Not
And
only with like him seeing Viren alive, but him seeing the person who, because the last time he saw Viren, he stabbed the man.
exactly. He's hearing Claudia's voice again and again in this reflection. How could you? How could you? How could you?
You
On repeat.
And like, even if he was fake, because Soren knew that Viren was fake. He knew that it was Rayla who in the end killed Viren. The last time he saw his father's face, it was him dying at his own hand. Even if it wasn't real, it looked real, it felt real, and to Soren it was real.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's because the thing with panic attacks is panic attacks can happen to the people who you least expect it to happen to. Absolutely. People see me in my day-to-day life and they wouldn't suspect that I have panic attacks as often as I do.
Yeah.
They wouldn't suspect that I have to keep a medication in my bag in case I have a panic attack. Yep. That's, you look at Soren, and if you looked at the main four in the Dragon Prince, Soren would be the last person you expected to go through panic attacks.
And I think I think connotatively, I think you're right. I think most people would agree. And I think what you start to see is often it's the people who are most like happy-go-lucky, who are most heart on their sleeve, who are most like, oh, they're having a, like, it's the Robin Williamses, it's the people who are outwardly and effusively happy and make people laugh, the comedians, so to speak.
It's masking.
It's masking. It is. And we see Soren do it a lot.
Oh gosh, no, that's Soren lets his mask down occasionally.
Yeah.
All of the characters, we see them mainly in seasons 4 and 5 with the others, but all of the characters have that mask. Absolutely. And really, with the main four at least, they all have that mask. The only time we really see them let down that mask at all is with each other. Mm-hmm. The four of them, they're basically siblings at this point. Like, yeah. I mean, two of them are actually siblings, and I'm not going to call Callum and Rayla siblings for very obvious reasons. Oh gosh, no, don't even let me get started with why the Viren is Callum's father theory would be stupid because of Claudia. Yeah, that'd be a Luke and Leia situation there.
It would.
Callum. Oh gosh. Yes. Yeah. Oh gosh, no. When Erebus said your other child, I legit just went, no.
Yeah, my jaw dropped. I was like, no.
They are doing this. No.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I was like, oh, okay. Woo, okay.
Yeah, just like, oh, thank God it's the caterpillar.
Yeah.
Thank God it's the non-human.
Yeah.
But thank God it wasn't a human.
Yeah. Amazing. But, okay, so we've had an incredible conversation. There has been so much, like a lot of different turns that we took here that kind of left us with all the questions and all the wonderings, and we got to talk about all of our favorites. So I'm going to transition us into gratitude and thinking about who we're grateful for from our conversation. Who are we grateful for from this reflection, from our conversation, and why?
Well, I feel like I have two characters that I want to bring up. One's from the story, and the other is one that we've discussed some, but I just really want to bring this character up because I love him. From the story, Soren really is who I'm grateful for with this story, because Soren's story just throughout the show, when we started with Soren, he was the muscle brainless guy. He was a comic relief. He was just, he was there to be the brawn to Claudia's brains is basically it, because Claudia and Soren were originally one character. They were split into two.
I did not know that.
Yeah, that was confirmed a long time ago. I think Aaron confirmed that one. But yeah, Soren and Claudia were originally one character. They were split because they wanted to have that oh gosh, contrast. They wanted to have that contrast.
Yeah.
So Soren has grown just so much, and one of the reasons why he was able to grow so much was because of acceptance. He accepted that he has done so much wrong. He's accepted that Viren is not a good person and that Claudia is going down a very dark path. In season 4, we do see him try to stray Claudia from that path, but by the end of season 4, he has basically fully accepted that his sister is not coming back to she is too obsessed with her. She's obsessed with what she feels she needs to fix. She has not accepted the world around her, and you can't force somebody to accept things, sadly.
Yeah. A lost child, if you will.
Hey. And I mean, we see that in seasons 4 and 5. Soren like fully accepting that he is who he is, and that's okay. Soren really comes out of his shell. He's still a funny muscle guy, but at the same time, like, he's the therapist of the group.
Yeah.
He talks through we see a great example of that in seasons 4 and 5. In season 4, he talks to Rayla about Callum and is just like, yeah, it's weird that you're back, but I know you two still care about each other. Yeah. And season 5 with Elmer.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if it weren't for Soren, I don't think they would have survived Finnegren's ship.
Yeah. Amazing.
But,
so you mentioned two. So you have
the other character that I want to bring up. No, duh, I'm bringing her up, but Rayla.
Obviously,
she's the best. It's her on the day that we're recording. It's her birthday. Happy birthday,
Bean. You all know that it's July 31st.
Yeah, it's July 31st on the day we're recording this. But Rayla also has had to go through so much acceptance. I talked about it earlier, but she has had to accept that the way she's been taught just isn't the way that the world around her truly works. And that's how I've had to go throughout my life. Because I've brought up before, I was raised in a really conservative area. And I'm going to be honest, when I was 12, 13 years old, on that scale, I was not where I am now. Nowadays, I'm just fully nurturing. But back then, I would say I was about that acceptance. I was about there at acceptance. Rayla was even, if that scale was like a thing for humans, Rayla would be all the way at the end.
Yeah.
But
absolutely.
She's learned to accept just through her friends, through her experiences, that the world, the way she's been taught it, it's the way the world is, but that doesn't mean it's right.
Yeah.
Because I think the biggest part of her learning that acceptance was her getting ghosted.
Yeah.
Because she had been taught all this for so long, but then she saw that it was used to cast her out. And she was just like, this isn't okay. You can't just abandon people when they don't do what you want to do. And the difference is with Soren and Rayla, though. Soren, like, with his acceptance, he's fully accepted it and he's never really gone back. Rayla has gone back because Rayla's been taught this way for so long that she has had to go. She has like gone back into her old ways before. We saw that with Through the Moon. We saw that in Escape from Umbertor. But she's trying, and that's a really good thing with her, because I relate to Rayla's story a lot. Because with me, I've accepted that a lot of really bad things in my life, but sometimes I still slip back into the way that I used to be. And the main thing is that both of us were trying to be that person that we know we're supposed to be, where we've accepted the world around us. But everybody messes up sometimes. And for me, I have a breakdown. For Rayla's case, she leaves her boyfriend for 2 years.
2 years. Amazing. Okay.
Love her to death.
We are grateful for Rayla. We're grateful for Soren. I am specifically grateful to Viren in this story for him walking away from Soren. I think that him saying "as you wish" and walking away is one of.
I really need them to have an actual conversation in season 6 if Viren's still alive.
We shall see.
Did Viren just die? It was really unclear.
It was unclear. But
Yeah.
that brings us to the
More
end.
baby sword in season 6 too.
Yeah, we'll see. So that brings us to the end. I'd love for you to share out any handles or websites or contact information if you want to be contacted by any listeners.
Yeah. Well, hi everybody. My name is Avery Marie. You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and TikTok under the handle AVE_R_IE. It's all one word, no spaces. I post cosplay, I post reactions, I post gaming content, I post silly little videos. I'm doing my best to get my Dragon Prince season 4 and 5 reactions up. They are currently in copyright jail, so YouTube is so much fun. I'm planning on making some Dragon Prince essay videos in the future, and I'm also planning on making some music in the future, including a song that I am writing based on Callum and Rayla. So thank you so much for listening and having me, and I hope I can see you on my own stuff soon, and hopefully I'm gonna be starting my own TDP podcast eventually. I was here to steal your ideas.
Yeah, no worries. Amazing. You all heard Avery here, folks. Check out all of their things. Check out all of the websites and all the cool things that are happening. Definitely like all of their posts. You can also find us at BNB_pod on all of those things as well. We would love to interact with you. Sometimes we don't post very often, but that doesn't mean we're not there. So if you tweet at us, we will respond. Or if you
We're always watching.
We will hang out with you, and we're happy to have a conversation. The best place to find us quickly is on our Patreon, though, BNB_pod at patreon.com. We'd love to have you join us there. We have monthly live episodes where we're tackling currently season 2 of Avatar: The Last Airbender. We have Appa's Lost Days is our next.
Oh, that's gonna hurt.
Yeah, we just finished.
Give the man your money for depression.
That's what I'm saying. We're gonna have a great conversation. We'd love to have you. And without further ado, this has been another episode of the Dragon Pod. Avery, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
For everyone else, thank you for listening. Until next time, be well and do good.
Love y'all.